You sound a lot better, but it's fine. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. This is the Trigger Yogi Podcast. Got my boy Mark Kraus here. Me and Mark Kraus are friends. We've been working together, and this is LA. We could be enemies next week. So I said, come on the podcast while we're friends. You know what I'm saying? Let's do this podcast. Who knows what could happen a week from now?
That's true.
We could hate each other, you know? Yeah. So let's get this in while we can. This is the Trigger Yogi Podcast. Mark Kraus, your boy Yoga Leroy. We've already been discussing a lot. I don't even know how to start. Well, let's start. Let's start with Mark triggering me last week.
All right, that's a good place to start. So what did it? So for a little bit of context, we do Comedy Fitness Live together, the live stream. And do you want to talk about that? Just to introduce it.
Yeah, man. So I had this idea for a show, Comedy Fitness Live. One of the big reasons why I wanted to do this show is because I want to figure out a better way to get content out without having to spend so much time editing. And streaming is, I feel, one of those ways. So the idea came from a mic that me, Mark, Brett, Chris Rubio, and I think Dot was there. I don't think Dot was.
She might not have been there, but yeah, everybody else was there at that specific mic. Yeah.
And I had this idea, this comedy fitness show idea that I honestly pitched the show to Dot a year ago. That's why I really wanted to include her because a year ago, because I love what Dot's doing, combining fitness and comedy. So I pitched this comedy fitness idea to her a year ago. So that's one of the reasons why I needed to include her. But it came from a mic. It was after the election. After election, we had a mic, a riffing mic at the fourth wall, and man, it was such a magical mic, dude. Just everybody was raw, raw emotions about their experience of what was going on and the election and the people around us. And we all riffed and joked. And it was just, for me, it was just a magical mic. And I was like, yo, that should be streamed. These type of mics should be streamed. That should be put out to the world to see, And that's where the idea came from. So now we're working on it, and we're in the getting to know the flow stage. It's very much getting to know the flow stage. Every time we do it, it gets better. Not just the production, but our chemistry, our comfortability gets better. The funny gets better. So I'm excited to continue to do this and to continue to, get better with this show idea. So the last show we did, I riffed. So the premise of the show is we riff off of Instagram Reels. We take Reels and then we riff off of those Reels. And this was an idea from our riffing mic, but the riffing mic is just suggestion. Someone calls out a suggestion and then the person riffs. But, to kind of make it our own, we're doing it from Instagram and YouTube short reels. And one of the reels I threw out was this and it's funny because when I was talking to my wife, I was like, man, this is my fault. I poked the bear because it was about this white woman that went to her neighbor's house. Her neighbor was black. She didn't know her neighbor before, but this white woman asked this black guy who was the owner of the house if he lived there. He said no, or he said, yes, I live here. And she says, I don't believe you. That's fucking hilarious. But to make it worse, she walked, and she had her kids with her. I can't stand this person.
She had the kid ring the doorbell.
She had her kids with her while people are so crazy. And then she leaves the house after he says that he lives there. She walks down to the driveway and starts running for her life.
And she's screaming help too.
Screaming help. So obviously this kind of makes me like these type of people kind of kind of tug on a very triggered trauma area for me. And maybe it wasn't the right thing to even bring to the show. Like now that I even think about it, because it was such a triggering, thing that Black people have to go through, and to see how for me it's evil. Like I feel like it's evil for someone to do something like that, because so many things can happen to this Black guy just from this white woman running and yelling help as if she just, her life was in jeopardy. And, there's so many cases where Black people have been locked up, killed, lynched, for decades, for centuries. So it's a very emotional thing. For me, so maybe it was the wrong thing, and that's also learning the show.
Yeah,
maybe that was the wrong thing to bring to the show.
No, I mean it was all going pretty well. The riff was going fine until I started asking follow-up questions.
Mark be fucking it up with them follow-up questions, I will say. And that's also us really not even knowing the flow of the show, or not really even understanding the flow of the show.
So what did I say that triggered the yogi?
Nah, honestly, I felt a trigger, but I wasn't triggered. I wasn't like upset with you.
Well, I think it was the part where I brought up, hey Leroy, aren't you married to a white woman?
Yeah.
But it wasn't as crass as that. It was really coming out of like a genuine, this is what I wanted to know. Like, because how do you negotiate that? You know what I mean? Because there's no question that stereotype about the hysterical, and maybe that's not the right word to use, white woman, right? Who's, running around scared and then creating this dangerous scenario where really an innocent Black man is being put into the situation where he could potentially get killed. And it's happened so many times where it's a cliche at this point, right?
Yeah.
And you, like, really not having any compassion for this woman. I think that's where it was coming from. So I got triggered. This is where I got triggered, because we know where you got triggered. Like, for me, it was this, because we got into like, okay, what would it take for this woman? What's the road to redemption for this woman? Because that's a question I always ask, like with anybody, like whenever we villainize anybody in our culture, society, whatever it is, like it's not, I don't think anybody wants to ever be put in the position where there's not a road to be redeemed, because as soon as we start writing off people as evil, as wrong, like that, there's no road to redemption, then there's no reason why anybody's ever going to change their behavior, Yeah,
I guess I'm a little bit more less forgiving towards certain people, maybe everybody, because society is less forgiving towards Black people.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. There's a double, like, how can you expect, like, especially as a Black man, right? When we look at America and our, like, it's not about rehabilitation. It's not about creating a pathway, to being able to reintegrate into society. It's about punishment. That's really what it is. So nobody's experienced that more than Black, and I would say brown people too. You look at our prison system, right? They're a fraction of, they're not a fraction, but they're a minority in this country. They make up the vast majority of the prison system. Yeah. That says everything, right?
Mexicans want to go to jail though, but that's another.
There it is. You should be teaming up. And all right, but look, so
they do. They love jail, bro.
We're gonna have to save that for. Hey man, like, they gotta get in. If they're gonna run the drug game in the jails, like, they gotta be in the jails.
Bro, I was so surprised when I got locked up how excited Mexicans were to be in jail, bro. It was wild to me. I was like, yo, this isn't like a punishment. They love it in here.
We're gonna get into that, but for now, we're talking about. All right, so like going back to that conversation, yeah. So for me, that was the part where I was like, because I think you had obviously you were triggered. You had a strong reaction. It was like
I was honestly, Mark. I'm more triggered. I'm not really like. Listen, this is my life. I'm married to a white woman. I still get my opinions on everything just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Me being married to a white woman doesn't exclude me from having opinions based on bias, racism, and all those kind of things. I'm more triggered, and this is where my triggers spark from, being challenged by men.
That's interesting. That's part of it too, right?
That's more than anything.
Yeah.
More than anything on the planet.
Yeah.
Being challenged.
Sure.
Even if it's like, it's just something that's in me. It's just something that's always living in me, you know, from high school, football, being abused by my dad, you know, feeling less than, you know, being bullied. Like, it's always in me. When someone challenges me, I have these things flare up, and I have to talk myself off of a ledge. Yeah. It's not you personally, even though it was in the context of what was going on. I don't necessarily feel it was appropriate, but I know you were trying to be funny.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Thanks for that grace. I needed that.
So that's what gave me grace in the moment for you. And I like you. I know you're not maliciously trying to like make me look like a fucking retard on camera.
Yeah, no, like
well, that's at least what I tell myself.
No,
maybe you were.
I wasn't. Look, no, the part that's interesting to me is that, you know, and because there's several parts of it that are sort of interesting. One is this idea of, like, because I said, okay, what does this woman need to do to, in your eyes, be redeemable? And you're like, nothing, fuck her, you know? And it was just very black and white, and that does bother me. Like, that is something personally triggering, because I feel like we as a society, we can't move forward if that's going to be the answer.
I should have said, I mean, I was emotional, but I should have said, and I did follow up why I said nothing, and it's mainly because this specific woman does not take accountability. So she can't be redeemed until she is honest with herself, her actions, what she's, not only her actions, what she's showing her, how she's teaching her kids to react to black people.
No, of course.
Like, she's teaching her two kids how to be afraid of black people, even if they're just living in their house, minding their fucking business.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what? So I should have said that, but it really is fuck her. It's fuck her until she is accountable for who she is and and what she's putting out into the world.
And that's the thing, like, because it's funny that you talked to your wife after this. I talked to my wife after this, and I talked to my wife. And I showed her the clip because I also felt like, man, did I needle Leon unnecessarily? Like, did I take a cheap shot? Because I was worried about that, because that's not something I'm about. I don't want to do that. And so I showed it to her, and she was like, I agree with Leon. That's basically what she said.
I love that your wife agreed with me, because me and my wife got into a fight.
Oh shit.
We argued about this.
Man. What was her take on it? We got to hear that.
She was like, yeah, you do be white woman this, white woman that all the time. And so it kind of made me see your side a little bit more, because me and my wife got into an argument about it. She was very much like, you know, I mean, and if you look at it as like, these are our tribes. I'm a black person. She's a white person. You're something. I don't even fucking know what you are. But
I'm the future, baby. This is what we're going to look like. We're all going to look like, I don't know who the fuck this guy is. He could be anything.
But we definitely have a tribe.
Yeah.
And you know the interesting thing about, man, I'm so off topic, but like, I feel like we are of the same tribe, because I've always been classified as not black, not white, mixed, you know, and you're a mixed person, and there's a tribe there. You know?
There is, because we don't fit into anything. That's essentially what it is, and I think it's that feeling of always being on the outside, and that's probably why, to a certain degree, we get along. You know, in spite of being completely from different backgrounds and all that. I mean, it's interesting. I have talked to my wife about this, and what it is you are essentially, your identity is how the world sees you, you know? And I was talking specifically about mixed race black people, right? Black, whatever it is. I'm assuming you're half.
I'm not.
You're there's no full white on either side?
I have done a 23andMe.
Yeah.
I do have Irish and European in me.
Well, that's where all the anger comes from. Now we know. We've identified that.
Right. Yeah. True. But yeah, I'm mostly black. Both my parents identify as black.
Yeah.
My grandparents all identify as black. I have a great grandfather on my mom's side that was white and molested my great grandmother, and that's what made my great grand whatever. So on my mom's side there was a molestation that started the gene pool, but also on my father's side, even though my dad and all the Walkers on my dad's side are dark skinned, but even he says like there's somebody down the road that's white.
This is the reality of being a black person in America. Like that's what it looks like, and it's such a unique, situation that that's why when I see like,
but if it wasn't for that rape, I wouldn't have these eyes.
You wouldn't have those pretty eyes. That's it, dude. So, good things can come from. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, bro.
Look, but no, that's what I find interesting. It's this idea of you are what the world, in America especially, but I don't think it's just limited in America. Like, you see this everywhere. You are what the world sees you as, There's a lot of people who are half black, half white. And if you look more black and you're walking down the street, for all intents and purposes, you're black. Like, that's...
Yeah. Well, to a certain demographic, you were black. I think everybody, but I think everybody that back to jail.
Yeah,
back to jail. I was one of the things that really stood out for me in jail was it was the first time maybe ever in my life that I was unapologetically black. Like no matter what, like I was a black, but like every other place in life, I'm not black enough, or I'm black, or I'm not black, or everybody's confused. But in jail, I'm black. So that's comforting.
No, in jail, I was somewhere between Mexican and white. Because my last name. It's funny, dude. When I was in jail in Oakland, right? So that's a hell of a place to go. No, and the way it's
LA's just as bad.
LA's probably exactly the same, but probably more Mexican, like I'm sure.
It was all Mexican.
There you go. In Oakland, it was all black, but there was,
really?
Yeah, mostly.
Okay, so maybe it is worse.
It's not worse. It's not worse. It's just different. So
listen, like jail, like for different, like I'll say this about blacks and Mexicans in jail. I don't know about Oakland, but in Los Angeles, Mexicans are they're very organized in jail. And blacks are, it's an animal house. It's especially if you're young and you're in a gang. You're fighting, you have to fight constantly. It's madness. Like there's a lot more structure within the Mexicans in jail.
I mean, I'm telling you, that's why you said they were excited to be there. They got that's the only way to run shit. You can't run shit effectively from the outside, dude. All right, look, it's interesting. Like we'll briefly touch on this, I think, but like with jail, like the way it's set up is it's all divided by race. Like, so when I was in there was like one white dude the first time, and they put me in with him because my last name was Kraus, and he was like a neo-Nazi white dude, and Did I tell him I was half Jewish? No. I kept that to myself. All right? He saw Kraus and he thought German, and I did not correct him, and that was the right move. Like you got to do what you got. But the point is, it's just interesting how they just separate everybody by like race like that. But immediately, like when I was in there, like the Mexican dudes kind of more clicked. But it was weird because I was kind of in between both worlds, and it's like to that point, if you look a certain way, then you're gonna be treated a certain way by certain people, and that's just like the reality of kind of our experience in particular. And like for me, I'm from Boyle Heights, East LA, and I grew up around Mexican people my whole life. And in my mind, I'm not any of those things. I'm just a person, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way. So I think everybody does. But it's interesting that when I walk into a store, I'm Mexican, dude. I'm walking down the street anywhere. People are like, oh, check out this little Mexican dude. It's just weird. And especially because I grew up around Mexican people my whole life. Like my wife.
You can't get it off you.
I can't get off me. My wife says like I'm a Chicano. Like that's what.
You can't get it off you, baby.
That it's interesting, dude. And
it is very interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's nature.
Yeah, there's something to it.
It's your tribe. You can't get it off you. That's who you are.
And at the same time, it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up speaking Japanese. My mom is a Japanese immigrant. She speaks English poorly. Like I grew up eating Japanese food, traditional Japanese food and all that. So that's also a huge part of my culture. So it's interesting that I think feeling like an outsider for sure somehow leads to like comedy somehow, because you have to like figure out a way to like, I don't know, figure out what your experience is. Anyway, I don't want to get too far.
Nah, I mean, I relate. I grew up in Tacoma, Washington, bro. So I grew up around a lot of white people. Yeah. And I always wanted to be black. Like I've always, the best compliments I get is like, man, for growing up around white people, you're pretty black, Leroy.
It's true, dude. It's true. I wouldn't have guessed Tacoma. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So I have gotten that compliment before, and it does make me feel good. Yeah. You know. So, but yeah, I mean, nature, bro. Like, and that's another thing. It's also another thing. Like people are like, cause I do get get kind of ostracized about, having a white wife. And it's like, I grew up in Tacoma, Washington.
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up around white people.
There's something to that. Let's talk about that, because I grew up around Mexican people and I'm with a Latina, Yeah. And it's just, and I remember when I was in college, dude, I remember this white ass dude, but he grew up in Oakland, right? And those are his people, dude. Like that's kind of what it is. Like what you grow up around, that's what you're comfortable with. And and it's not, it's expected at that point. Like this dude, he could never marry a white girl. You know what I mean? Like he was only going to marry a black girl. Like it was, that's your tribe too. It's like your adopted tribe. And
it's almost like it was such a confusing thing too, because my parents definitely did not want me dating white women.
Yeah.
And it was a confusing and frustrating thing, because growing up in high school, it was just kind of like, so what am I supposed to do with these nuts, baby? You think I'm just supposed to hold these in till a black person comes by? Because there ain't no black people.
You should have told your parents that, look, you want me to date a black girl, we need to move.
Yeah.
All right? This is on you. You created this.
It is on them. I take no responsibility for any of my actions.
They are setting you up, all right? They want to see you fail at that point. Yeah. Let's move to Tacoma. How'd your parents end up in Tacoma? I'm curious.
Military. My mom's my grandparents on my mom's side, military.
Okay.
My dad, military. I can't remember the military base in Tacoma, Washington, but everybody that's in the military. Dang it! I should. Know that. I'm just having a brain fart right now. Fine, dude. I am getting older and losing my memory.
Well, let's all agree that there's a military base in Tacoma.
Fort. It's gonna come to me. It's gonna come to me. But the military, that's what brought my people, black people, to Tacoma. Right. And there's more black people there now.
Yeah. Like, what was the percentage when you were growing up?
Well, I also lived in a kind of middle to upper class area as well. My dad, like, if nothing else, he made sure we had things. He wanted us,
That's interesting.
And he liked things too.
Yeah.
So we had the biggest house. Like we had a nice house. We had nice cars. Good Christmases and all that. He beat the shit out of us. So
it's always complicated, man. Yeah. Damn. Like, and it's interesting because
Well, he didn't beat up my brother. He beat up me mostly.
Were you the older one?
I was a middle child.
Why did he beat on you for? Like, what was it about you? Those eyes, those pretty eyes. Is that what he?
I honestly think me and my dad are a lot alike, and I think my dad has a problem being challenged, and I do have, and I must have always had this energy, this very challenging, like very like fuck you kind of energy. I don't do it on purpose. It's my energy, you know. But maybe that's what rubbed my dad the wrong way, because I did get a lot of beatings. That, you know, I was always silly. I was always, you know, trying to like crack a joke and not taking it. My dad was very serious most of the time. But my dad, I mean, my dad had so many different personalities. I mean, but yeah, you know, he was a very much like respect kind of person, and if he felt like he was being disrespected, you were gonna get hit, you were gonna get slapped. Not just me, other people too. I've seen my dad beat up people. like what? Like I remember, like my dad's favorite place is Home Depot, and bro, like I used to see my dad getting like crazy like fights with people at Home Depot just because he felt disrespected, you know. So yeah, anger, we, you know, we all have anger problems. Like me, my brother, my sister. Well, not my brother very much. Well, not as much as me, my sister, my dad, and my mom. So anger has been a issue for us since I can remember, you know.
That's interesting though, because that. So, I want to talk about John Lennon for a second. All right, I know this is out of left field, but it's not. Like John Lennon's like one of my all-time favorite artists, like beyond music, anything, just overall, you know. Mm-hmm. And you know, after he met Yoko Ono, he got very big into like, you know, peace and really promoting peace. And he got a lot of criticism for that, you know, and he had a long history of, you know, he was known, like he hit his first wife, you know, and he had that anger in him his whole life. You know, he was an angry dude. Mm-hmm. And what he talked about, like people would be like, you know, why are you this big spokesman for peace? Like, where is this even coming from? Don't you think it's like a little hypocritical, like given your history and stuff like that? And he was like, it's because I'm a naturally violent person, angry person, that I need that I need to make that my thing, because I'm trying to overcome this. And a lot of times, like the people who need spirituality in their life, the people who need those things are the people who are the angriest. Like, and not everybody finds that shit, you know? So people who find a path into that says a lot about them as a person. This is why I like you, Leon, a big part of it. And can I call you Leon on the podcast?
No.
Okay.
No, so I'm kidding. Yeah, okay, yeah, you call me Leon.
All right, but anyway, and it's because...
Why do you like me again?
Because it starts with awareness, you know?
Fuck yeah.
And then there's action behind it.
Fuck yeah.
So there's a reason why...
That's why I like me too.
Yeah, Yoga Leroy, that's what it's about. You're not going to be... The reason you're doing that is because you recognize that this is something that's in my life, and I want to overcome this.
Yeah.
And that's what life is kind of about, you know?
And you know what kind of people I don't like?
Yeah.
People that can't comprehend somebody wanting and actively practicing to change to a better person.
Yeah, you can't put yourself around those type of people.
Just like his, you know, criticism of John Lennon, calling him a hypocrite because he had a past.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. For me, like a lot of people are just the judge and the jury.
Yeah.
And they just want to be the judge and the jury, and they want everything to happen around them how they think it should happen.
Yeah,
I don't like those people.
Because they're looking outside of themselves. There's something that they're not facing within.
Yeah.
People who look and judge and do that exactly what you're describing, they're not looking at themselves. And they're not going to do that. The reason why they're avoiding that, and that's why they're looking out and judging and saying, "Oh, everybody else." I mean, that's what it is, dude. But
back to that white girl clip.
Yeah, I'm glad we got back there.
Full circle, baby, because I think that's what triggered, like you said, that's what triggered you, is because I was not even open to hearing her potentially being able to change, but it sparked from her not being aware.
That's exactly
her not owning up to her shit and her toxic ways of being and what she's teaching her kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing, in the video too, there was an apology and she's crying and she's got tears.
It was a horse ass apology.
You didn't buy any of that shit.
If we played that apology, you would say, and we did play it, you'd say, this is not an apology, this is a victim.
Yeah, and it's, exactly.
And I cannot stand, bro, and this has happened to me, and this is maybe why it triggered me so much. I cannot stand for somebody to do something to put someone else's life in jeopardy and being like, when I was 15, this is what happened to me, and this is why I did this, and X, Y, Z. Bro, we were all 15. I was 15 too. Bitch, you think I didn't go through some shit? Am I projecting and making it the reason why I'm coming over your house and robbing you? Like, oh, I robbed this bitch, but when I was 15, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, totally. And that's exactly what my wife said. She was the same thing. She was like, look, if someone has no awareness, they have no ability to look at themselves honestly, then how can you redeem someone like that? You can't do that work for them. And I was like, yeah, she's got a point. You know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what do you do at that point? Like, it's a difficult, challenging question because society is full of those people. We were just talking about that right now. Not everybody is capable of looking at themselves honestly. A lot of people are not capable of looking at themselves honestly. So what do you do? Because you're surrounded by people like that. Yeah. Like how do you, all you can really do, and this is something I'm learning because as I'm gotten older, all you can really do is focus on yourself, like what are you doing, changing your perception, changing how you respond to things. And what I've noticed, and this is something that I've seen over and over again, is when you go through that transformation yourself, then by the law of cause and effect, nature, your environment starts to change, and people like we were talking about this earlier about how you could talk to people and tell them all day long about what they need to do. You were talking about a friend, and I don't know if you want to talk about this real quick.
I do. Can you pause for a second? Because this is bothering me just a little bit. I just want to put you a little bit more in frame.
All right.
Okay. I have OCD a little bit.
I actually have OCD. I had it my whole life. It sucks. You can only manage it. Maybe we'll talk about it someday. Anyway, all right. But yeah, let's talk about that. We could talk about it a little bit. I won't go into details. I mean, how much?
Yeah, bro, I have so many people like this in my life. Yeah. It's one of my motivations to do a podcast. And like I said, when describing this podcast, I describe it as a Big Brother podcast. Because from my experience, trying to help people, trying to mentor people, trying to help guide people gets nowhere. It's never worked for me. I've even had people tell me man, you wouldn't think it, but Leroy got some good advice. People, I've noticed for some reason, people either don't want to receive information from me or the term assholes.
I know. I think I know what you mean. Could you explain that?
Asshole is somebody that comes to you for advice but doesn't even follow any of it. But multiple notorious advice seekers.
Oh yeah.
But
they're not interested in
does the exact opposite of that advice.
Yeah, that is exhausting.
It is exhausting, and I find myself being that guy. I find, because I do want to help people, especially people I love, and especially people that I think are great.
Yeah.
And I do see people's greatness. I see greatness in people.
And everybody? Most people.
If you're in my life, I see you as a great person. I don't associate with people I don't see greatness in. I don't. Period.
No, I understand.
So yes, everybody.
I feel the same way. That's something. Maybe another reason. I think we see eye to eye on important things. Maybe not everything. I don't think it's going to be possible, but that's another important point. I do see greatness in everybody, and I think we're all here to reveal that greatness,
Yeah.
And I'm talking about everybody, even the most, and it's going to be harder for some people than others. And, but I agree with you on that,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. And, I've had a few relationships that got confusing in a way where I felt like I was giving so much when it comes to like trying to help guide somebody and they didn't value it, or, used it and didn't use it, but didn't value it. And I was, and I'm at the place where I'm just like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. It's taking so much energy away from me. And then when somebody shows that they don't value what I have tried to bring to the table, then I have to grieve. I don't like grieving. Like, I literally have a friend that has been ghosting me, and I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me, and now I'm grieving, and I feel like a bitch, my boy. Like, I feel like a little bitch, because these relationships are tough, man. Especially I find that friendships are more tough than any kind of relationship now, especially in Los Angeles. Like, friendship, like trying to keep friendships like this very like connected, but like we all have our own lives and our own family, but we're friends. Like, trying to keep friends is like, I'm honestly understanding a little bit why when I grew up, my dad, my uncles, they didn't really have friends. It's a little harder to have friends when you become an adult.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think everybody struggles with that, and what we all need as human beings is community. And that's like so obvious to me. It's so basic and fundamental. Yeah. Like, Kurt Vonnegut, I don't know if you're all familiar with him. He was a writer. He's a very famous, he wrote Slaughterhouse-Five. That's the book he's most well known for. Anyway, that was something that came up in his books a lot. And there's one specific book, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was just that the basic idea was that essentially we're all lonely,
Yeah.
And society would be transformed if everybody had a community. And I think this is totally true. Like, whenever we see, like, when you really look at the toxic, movements that happen, especially in the United States. I was reading an article about this the other day about the white supremacy movement and how like this guy got sucked into it, right? And he was not, he didn't start off that way. He kind of came from liberal background. He went to college. He got involved with the frat, and then the Trump thing was happening, and then it became, like they felt empowered.
That sounds like American History X. It literally sounds like that movie.
Yeah, so it is kind of like that.
Because that's what happened. He went to college.
And then and then he, like, his perspective changed, but now what he was really missing was a community, and they offered him a community, and you see this over and over again, like in I'm from like the inner city, right? Like gangs, that's what that is. Yeah. Like in Boyle Heights, East LA, the reason why kids join gangs is because they don't have a community, right? So they feel like, because their parents, and this is the thing about, it's mostly immigrant parents, and nobody works harder than immigrants. So what that means is they're not home. And they're not hiring babysitters. They can't afford that shit. These kids are on their own. That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
And you're going to get into trouble, and you're going to be isolated, and you're going to be struggling, and no one's there to fucking help you with your homework. None of that. And that's where the gangs come in, because they're like, hey, be part of something. Like, we'll take care of you. We love you. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs a community. And then you look at incels, and when they get pushed to the point of doing crazy things, what are they missing? Community. They're isolated.
Yeah.
And if someone reached out and connected with them, dude, and that's why when I see those nerds like playing these board games and card games and all this shit, and it's easy to make fun of that because it's dorky as shit, but they've created their community, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, anytime, like Star Wars nerds, they go to conventions and they meet up and they keep in touch with each other. We all need community. Like,
yeah, man. I mean, I think one of the big issues that I've had in Los Angeles is, and it's so funny because you mentioned gangs, I feel like the entertainment community is pretty toxic.
Yeah.
Like gangs, I feel like it's a lot of bullying. It's a lot of narcissism, even outside of the bullying. It's a lot of you're not as talented as me. You're not gonna upstage me. It's a lot of climbing over each other. And this isn't just like in your 20s. I'm seeing people that are in their 30s operate this way. I mean, I literally have friends that follow the 48 Laws of Power, which is a book about how to be a narcissist.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, there's 48 Laws of Power, like how to play these mind games and control people and control, and pretty much dog eat dog. That's what the 48 Laws of Power are. But the author also has a lot of other books that are a lot like beautiful. Like he's actually, I can't remember his name. My sister, she's read a lot of his books, but he has a book called the 48 Laws of like Human Nature or something. And it's a healthier book. It's something, and I'm gonna read that book probably soon. But anyways, yeah, man. I mean, this whole, like I've been here for 22 years I started pursuing acting, and then started comedy about 10 or 11 years ago. And the community here is strange. It's just very, very lack mindset. Like there's a very lack mentality in.
You mean like scarcity? Like
scarcity.
Yeah. They're like, it's me or you. Like we're not both here.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of us is gonna make it. There ain't space for both of us.
Exactly.
And it's sure as hell gonna be me.
Exactly.
It's interesting because I'm from LA. I'm from here, and I don't know this world at all, dude. Yeah. I'm not up until I started doing comedy 2 years ago, and there's a lot of reasons that it just kind of happened, and I had no interest in doing that. I had no interest in being a performer, no interest in fucking Hollywood, any of that shit. And it turns out I grew up right down the street from it in the bad part of town, but Hollywood's right there. Like Boyle Heights it's 15 minutes away, and I don't know that world at all. Like LA for me is a completely different experience. And that's what's interesting about a lot of people who grow up in LA. They don't see it that way. Like they know, oh yeah, Hollywood's right there. I guess, yeah, there's movies and shit. But like my world experience it's just a hard struggle life. My mom's a waitress, she's single.
Yeah.
We're going to like a rough school, a public school, like trying to you don't stay out at past a certain time. You when it's dark and you're walking by yourself, you're looking around because it's dangerous,
That's what I like about you, Mark. You're an actual LA person. That might be another reason why I do like you around. You don't seem like the type of person that has like really like honestly this type of person I'm talking about. I've started to dislike.
Yeah.
Quite like a lot.
But see, this is the interesting thing that we were talking about. That I've never seen this.
Yeah.
Until I started doing comedy.
Yeah, but you're seeing it now.
Now I'm seeing it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not making it up.
Yeah, no. I mean, you know what it is, and I've come to understand it. And that's why, like, look, we're gonna probably talk about the fourth wall at some point. Like, you will find community. You'll find people that aren't like that at all. And I think the people we've connected with, it's all been through the fourth wall. And And credit to Joe for creating a space where that community can live,
The fourth wall for me feels like a open mic Cheers.
Yeah, it is like that.
That's how it feels to me. It feels like where everybody knows your name, where there's an understanding in the space.
In particular, NoHo we're talking about.
In particular, yes. NoHo.
Yeah.
It feels like the goofies kind of stay away.
Yeah.
Like the goofies, like even talk bad about us.
Oh yeah. I've gone to the other ones. Yeah. And they're like, they don't want to come there.
Yeah.
And we're like,
and bro, I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah. And no, for sure. Like, and that's where it's been refreshing for me because where I see what you're talking about is at those other places where the goofies are, and that's what it is. Like, these are the comics that, they're just looking for every opportunity to just level up and they'll do whatever it takes. They're, whatever, dude. It's not even worth getting into, but the point is, I've seen what you're talking about, and the part where I have some compassion, and because I'm always looking for how do I find compassion for this person, because it's not easy, dude. And when we talked about the white woman, I've talked a ton of shit, in particular about white women like that, and that's a challenge for me, and that's part of why I brought it up, because I'm asking the same question for myself. Like, how do I find a way to find compassion in this person? Because I get the most shit I get since I've been doing comedy has always been from women like that, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out a way, like, I could attack them and just lean into it and keep talking shit, or I could find a way to connect, and I'm still trying to figure that out. But the point is, like, this is where I found compassion for the goofies, and I'm glad you came up with that. That's a good term for them.
It really is.
Yeah, so this is where they're coming from. And I thought, like, because a lot of these people, they came to LA, you know, and they're usually like in their 20s, but not always, but that's when it starts. That's when they usually come. Mm-hmm. And they dropped everything from wherever they came from, you know, and different circumstances. And they came here to chase this dream. And now they're in it. And now they're in the reality of it, and it's hard, and it's lonely, and it's this and that.
And there's also this fear.
That's where the fear
when I'm
starts.
30? What happens when I'm 35 and it doesn't happen? What happens when I'm 40? I think the difference is, for me, is I've already passed through all that fear.
Yeah.
And I've had good years. I've had bad years. The industry in Los Angeles is a carrot in front of your face, and until you realize, no matter how good a year is, that carrot is never going away, and you have to deal with the rat race of this industry, you're going to continue to torture yourself. This industry is not built for most people to win.
Yeah, of course not. It would be impossible, you know? But this is where my peek into this world has been very interesting, because I never had those ambitions, you know? I just kind of just fell into it. And before that, I had created a foundation for my life. So that's where I started to feel grateful, because, like, I never did that. In my 20s, you know, I went from being in jail and being fucked up and, like, I don't know what I'm going to do in my life. And then, like, connecting at this theater in Boyle Heights, and then working there for years, and then building something, and then being in a relationship, and then getting married, and then putting our money together and saving, and, like, growing in my job and getting better at that, buying a house, doing all these things, having kids, creating a foundation, you know, like building out a space like this. My idea was just to play music. That's all I wanted. Privately, I didn't want to meet anybody. I wanted to be on my own. Yeah. And I think that's what I was missing, that I didn't realize that I didn't have a community, you know?
Yeah.
And something about comedy felt like, oh, that's my community. I could just tell, you know? And a part of me knew that for a long time, but I was afraid to do that. And in a weird way, my isolating was my fear of putting myself out there, making myself vulnerable like that, and doing something that, like, putting myself in a place where I probably belonged. And I think now that I've been doing that, suddenly I've created a community, you know, and a lot, I have to credit Fourth Wall in particular for that, because my comedy community is that is Cheers for me. Like, I do other mics around town because I'm like, you don't want to always be so comfortable. You don't want to be at a space where you're just too comfortable and all of that. So I go to these other mics to experience that. But I look forward to NoHo, because that's like it's like, oh, I did all that work. I'm tired. Now let me go here and it's like Cheers. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, man, I don't go to any other mics. But there's levels to this. I mean, I have been doing this for 10 years, and there has been times where I was jumping around this city. And for me, I really am at a place where I'm really trying to protect my peace. Number one, I am still a very triggered yogi. I know that about myself. I don't like feeling judgment from people that have nothing to do with anything about my life, and that's kind of how a lot of comics are. They like to project their judgment, even though it just doesn't make sense to me, because
I've experienced that. It's rough, dude.
It doesn't make sense, because we're working on a craft for an audience, not for comedians. But this community thinks that you have to get through us first.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you want to be a stand-up comedian? You want people outside LA to find you funny? make us laugh first.
Yeah.
We have to accept you first. And it's funny because that's how you get past at the Comedy Store. You have to go through comedians to get past to perform in front of audiences. It makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
And I don't sign up. I don't sign up for it.
And I think like you got to respect that. The people, because man, we've all seen people who play that game. You know, they want to hang. You know, they want to network. Everything is quid pro quo. You know, and that shit is exhausting, and it's not going to make you a better comic.
No,
and that's the whole point.
Never.
Like, yeah.
In fact, it's going to make you a worse comic because you're going to start catering your act towards comedians, and that's not going to translate on in front of non-comic audience. Yeah. You know, and it's happened to me.
It's happened to me too.
It's happened to me. Just performing to try to make comics laugh.
Yeah.
And then going and doing shows and be like, none of this works.
Yeah, because you're all your and that's sort of the flaw of the slotted mic system and all of that. Like in other towns, what's great about LA is that you can pretty much any day of the week go and do an open mic. Like the opportunities are there, and that convenience for me especially is the best, right?
Yeah.
The flaw of it is you're only performing in front of other comics. Like in other towns, they don't have those opportunities. But a lot of times when you do an open mic, you're at a club in front of a real crowd.
Yeah,
and that's a much different, much more valuable experience to do that. You know,
every place I've gone to and done comedy outside of Los Angeles, when I've done mics, it's been in front of a real audience.
Yeah, and it's a completely different thing.
And it's felt like a show.
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I did a show at the Comedy Chateau. Fuck, dude. Like, I've just learned to accept that place for what it is. No, if I'm not like, if I don't have shows lined up, I'm like, I got to get in front of a real audience.
Yeah.
I can fucking get 3 people. Like, you know, they're my friends. They'll do it. And I'll get in front of a real audience and I'll just make the best of this shit. So I do that because it does put me, like, knock the Comedy Chateau all you want, and please do, you know? But
I've never performed there. I've never tried, so I can't knock it too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to produce shows and perform a lot at the Haha Cafe. I love the Haha Cafe.
I like that place too.
It's where I did comedy the first time. I performed there I produced shows there for 4 years. On my 40th birthday, the owners screwed me over and I lost my shit. And I haven't been back since. So I was thinking about going over to the Comedy Chateau, you know, being that it's still in North Hollywood.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to the owner about producing shows there, he gave me so many red flags, bro. And then I started hearing about him and hearing about the club, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna go from a shit show to another shit show. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that. But all these clubs have their pros and cons, and yes, it is like finding a stage. And I can't really hate on the Comedy Chateau because it is a stage. They do get audiences. Yeah. It's his business. All these producers, all these club owners, they're running these clubs how they want because it's their business. Bro, you're gonna see the pros and cons at every club. You're gonna see it at the Comedy Store. You're gonna see it at the Improv. You're gonna see it at the Laugh Factory. You're gonna go out of town and you're gonna see it there.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Seattle and there's this club that the headliner asked me to open for him, and the club owner in Seattle said, I don't know him. I'm not gonna, he can't come and do my club. And it was just like the headliner is vouching for me and he wouldn't let me open for him.
Yeah. No matter where you go, for sure. You know, but what I was getting to is that, so I performed there and, you know, solid set. And this guy came up to me after and, you know, he said he had been doing comedy a long time and he became a comedy writer. And he said some nice things, you know, but he said the main thing was, like, you just need to get on stage more. That's all you're missing. Just real stage time, you know? And he said, like, that's what's messed up about LA scene in general is that they're not really giving real stage time to comics.
Nope.
They're not developing anybody.
Nope.
It's really a business that they're profiting from, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what the bringer shows are. They're making money off of your people you know, and the exchange is, okay, well, you got to get on stage, and that's the best it is right now. But it's really not about developing comedians.
You can't do bringer shows for too long.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just, the science just doesn't add up. It's one of the reasons why I'm trying to build a streaming audience. I'm trying to find a different way while I'm here to create an audience and get in front of people, because this town doesn't allow it. You either have to play the game that we've talked about. Makes no sense. You can get lucky, get past at one of these places. You're not getting past at the Improv, but you know, there are ways to get past that at the Comedy Store, but you have to go through a bunch of comics, which doesn't make sense. Or bringer shows as much as you can, which also it's not sustainable. It's really hard to get stage time in LA. That's why I encourage you to keep doing shows, because like if we all have shows and we're putting each other up, then now we're taking matters in our own
That might
hand.
be the best way to do it. Like, especially if we all just do, because we all have that capacity, like, and that probably is the best way, because you can help each other out, give each other as much stage time as possible, just take on the work of doing it. And it is a lot of work. I did want to get back to something, because we were talking about these friends having people, what did you call them, assholes? And you were talking about a specific guy in particular, because I think this is like an important thing to touch on. This idea of people who are going to take a ton of your energy, you know, because you care about them, you know?
Yeah.
And this is something that I've learned with my wife, you know, and this is important. And I think it's an important distinction, especially with anybody you care about, you know, like when someone feels like they need to talk and like come to you and be like, hey, this is what's going on with me. It's not a bad idea. And we do this now, is just like, okay, do you need me to help you, or do you just need me to listen?
Yeah, man, that's exactly what I talk to my therapist about. Yeah. And most times
it's listen.
Yeah. Most times people want to vent, and most times I'm good on asking somebody, like, how can I support you?
Yeah.
How do you need me to support you?
Yeah.
Do you want my advice?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to listen? But a couple of times recently, I didn't ask how they needed me to support them, and it got weird. But yeah, that's a good thing to remember when because now you're in a place where it's like, you know what to expect, and also boundaries.
It's a boundary.
It's creating healthy boundaries, which is, yeah, man. I mean, creating boundaries is going to really save it's going to save everything.
Did you read that book? I forgot what it's called. It's like Create Boundaries, Set Yourself Free, something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Look, there's a whole book. My wife was like, you need to read this. And I haven't read it. But let me look it up, because it's worth looking into. And I think, you know, let's see. Set boundaries. I'll just find it, dude. Like, where's my Audible? Here it is. This is one of those books that, trust me, it'll be worth it, okay?
I'm excited, bro.
All right, it's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Tawwab.
Yeah, that title makes so much sense to me, bro, because when you start setting boundaries across the board, and you don't, here's the thing, you don't tell people.
Yeah.
So, rule number 1, don't tell people you're setting boundaries.
Yeah.
like that's going to create conflict.
Yeah.
And most people that are assholes, narcissists, you know, vampires, emotional vampires, most of these type of people, they hate somebody that's creating boundaries. They could smell a boundary out. Like, is this a boundary, my boy? Yeah. They could smell it, you know? So they don't want you to set boundaries. Yeah. And so if you tell these type of people, like, I need to set boundaries, I need to set a boundary, and I did this recently. I'm not going to say who I did this to, but I mean, there must have been something in me that wanted, because I know you don't say that. You don't say, I'm creating a boundary. And I did that to somebody, so there must have been something in me that's like, I want to poke at this person, you know? But you know, telling people you're creating boundaries is just as toxic as, you know, but boundaries are essential, baby.
Yeah, you know, I did read, like, I listened to part of that book, and like one thing that they say is like, it's not that hard to create a boundary. Enforcing the boundary is the hard part, you know? And usually people who need to create boundaries more than anybody else are the people who are the most giving, you know? And it makes sense. At a certain point, you got to protect yourself. You can't. Coolio said it, you know, you can't help me if you can't help yourself.
Oh, shit. He even put the Coolio accent on it.
He did say it. And it was very wise words from Coolio. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Like, but that's basically what it is. And that's kind of what it comes down to. You're not in a position to help anybody if you can't help yourself, you know? And the best way to help anybody is to help yourself. And it sounds paradoxical and it sounds selfish. It's not. Because when you're able to, and this is like, look, I don't know if you know this, I'm Buddhist. I don't know.
You're Buddhist?
Yeah, I'm Buddhist.
Really? Why you say it like that?
Because I'm not trying to like promote shit. You know what I mean? Like, I just grew up in it. I didn't choose this. You know?
You say a lot of things like you're disappointed.
Because it is a little disappointing. It's like, okay, of course, you know, like I got an altar right there. You see it? That's what Buddhist.
So your parents are Buddhist?
So my dad grew up Jewish, and when he was 17 years old, he became a Buddhist. And my mom, basically the same thing. When she was a teenager in Japan, she was struggling and all that, and she had a neighbor who really looked after her and introduced her to this practice, and it was kind of in her family. But my mom is the only one who kept it up. And then she came to the U.S. to study English. Yeah, met my dad through this Buddhist organization. And that's where I came from. I came out of that. You
know what's so interesting, and I think I've said this several other times, that how serendipitous like things have been with like my relationships in the last month. You know, like
too. I'm experiencing this equally.
Yeah, like even like you being a Buddhist and being on, like me asking you to do this podcast, the Triggered Yogi podcast. I'm not a Buddhist. Yeah. I'm more Christian than anything, but I'm more like spiritual.
I'm the same way, and that's why I was like, I'm Buddhist, because I don't want to identify with anything like that. But what I've noticed as I've gotten older, because I pulled away from it, because I grew up in it's an organized religion. It's a Buddhist organization, you know, and it has, it's one of, I gotta say, it is an organization that I really think is great in a lot of ways, because it's incredibly diverse. It really is, you know, and it's really run by people. Like, you know, the crux of it is people meeting once a month in their homes, and then it's bigger than that. But it's like, and it's a pretty big organization. That's the part that bothers me about it, because once anything becomes big like that, organized religion, then there's always problems that get introduced. And I'm not saying there are, because there's a ton of things I really appreciate about it. And growing up in it, there's things that, like, because we were poor, you know, my parents were working all the time. We didn't really, and a lot of people through this organization really took care of me and my sister, like on Sundays or whatever, on the weekend, come, like, well, and they had a lot of activities for youth and stuff, and we'd get together and play, like, there's like a band or whatever and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So it was a really positive thing in my life. And as I've gotten older, because I definitely pulled away, especially as like in my 20s and stuff like that. I really got away from it. Yeah. I learned how valuable a lot of it was, dude. Just like the philosophy part of it. Like, I really connected, like cause and effect. That makes total sense to me. Like this idea that you create and change your environment. If you find peace internally, then your environment's going to change. And you know what? Right. You don't, and this is where it connects back to what we were just talking about. If you really want to help people in your life, and Coolio, you know, he figured this out. Like, if you really want to help people in your life, help yourself. Then you'll be in a position to, you know, if your house is on fire, and how are you going around trying to put other people's houses out? Yeah. Like, your shit is on fire. take that out, fix up your house, and then now you're in a position to actually do something.
Dude, I say it all the time. Like, your inner work is the best thing you could do for everybody you love. Like, your inner work, you tapping in, you deep diving and figuring out and being honest and having awareness. And, you know, and, you know, when you start doing that kind of work, you see how many other people, like, don't really do that.
And here's the thing. I read that book, Wherever You Go, There You Are. And it's not a Buddhist text at all. Like, I've never really read anything outside of, like, Buddhism that I grew up in. So I've been kind of looking at these other things. And it's just it's kind of like the book on meditation, you know, and mindfulness meditation in particular, because there's different types of meditation. I briefly looked into TM. I was curious about it because I like David Lynch a lot, and he really talked about it, how great it was. And for whatever reason, it didn't connect with me that much. I don't know why. I didn't go into it. I just read about it, learned about it and all this. And when you look at the research, transcendental meditation.
Oh,
yeah. So it's a different form of meditation, and it's really like a nonprofit or like organization. It's really has its roots in like, you know, Hinduism. And it got developed in the 1950s, and then it came to the U.S. And there's like a lot of people who really swear by it, and I think there's a lot of value in it from what it sounds like. But I looked into the research of it, and kind of in the research, what it says is meditation is good all around. You know, there's so many benefits to it. But whether or not you're doing like mindfulness meditation, which is very much like, you know, learning how to work the muscle of becoming more present in your daily life, or you're doing transcendental meditation, which is a little bit different because it's about transcending, and it's the whole process. It's a little more closed, in my opinion, less accessible, you know, because you have to go through this organization and be taught by an instructor, and it is nonprofit, and I think they really are doing it for all the right reasons, but then you have to pay a fee and all this kind of things, and you get a mantra, and then you learn how to do it. And like I said, David Lynch swore by it, you know, also rest in peace. And I'm sure there's a ton of value in it. But I, for whatever reason, connected more to the mindfulness stuff. So I read that book, okay? And I started meditating. And yeah, for sure. There's so much value to just doing that, to going inside and starting to slow down and then learn to be present in your life. And that's just like the exercise of that. And the point of the book too is kind of that, you know, the daily practice of meditating, and I've fallen off, and I really do want to get back into it, is that it's creating a discipline to work that muscle so that you can be more present in your daily life the rest of your day. That's really what it's about, because you're going to get triggered. You're going to have conflict. No matter what, that's going to happen. Except that, but the way you respond to it in the moment, that's going to completely change when you're present. And it's everything else. Joys too. When you're more present in joyful moments, you can actually really get more out of it. Every experience in your life, if you bring presence to it, is a better experience. And that's what I really got out of that. And I'm almost getting to my point, which was this.
I'm excited.
Here's the point. That was the long way to get there. The point is, after I read that book, I was like, I need to share this with everybody. And I bought 6 copies, and I gave it to everybody I know, and not one motherfucking person read that shit.
Because they didn't want to receive. Like that's the thing. That's the thing. The best way to give somebody something is to walk in it.
Exactly.
That's the best way to give, like, and the times that I've walked in what I want to give, people come and ask me, what's going on with you? And what's happening? You seem different. That's
the point. That's how you change your environment, because now people want to listen. They want your advice. They want to know what's going on. What are you doing? Because I want to get a piece of that. You got a glow about you. I want that glow too. Tell me what I need to do. But the moment you start going, hey, check out my glow. You want this glow?
Yeah.
I could help you get this glow. Like, they're like, fuck you. I don't want nothing to do with you.
That's why door to door anything
don't bother.
Does not work.
Hell no.
Wasting your time.
And that's a big part of that. If I have one criticism of that Buddhist organization that I grew up in, it's this idea of propagation. Oh, we got to, like, you got to spread the word, and all this. It's like, listen, if this shit is really working the way you say it's working, you don't need to say anything. People will come to you.
Yeah.
So do that work, you know, and
But every religion thinks that they could knock down those doors and save people. And
that's the problem, because now they're businesses at the end of the day, you know, and then that no one wants to see it that way, but they are, and they need more people to keep business booming, you know. And that's where organized religion always fails for me. And that's always going to be my criticism about that. Because really, and that's why I like this mindfulness thing a lot, because it really is about work on you. And it's funny, in the book, you know, this is funny, dude. In the book, it even says, you know, once you start doing mindfulness practice, you're going to want to share it with people, and you're going to want to tell them they should meditate too. And it's just like, don't do that. You know, just keep meditating. And I didn't listen. You know?
I'll tell you what, as a yoga instructor, someone that taught yoga for six years, I would be in front of a class full of people that consider themselves yogis. And trying to get that room to meditate was like trying to get a 5-year-old to sit still. Some people, like, even if they come for it, if they don't want it, you'll get that resistance. But I will say, I truly feel like practicing meditation, guiding people in meditation, and teaching yoga and meditation regularly for 6 years has changed my brain and changed, even though I still feel a lot of things like that time when you challenged me.
Yeah.
You know, I felt it,
of course,
but I definitely didn't react like I would have like 2 or 3 years ago.
Of course.
You know, or you know, like longer than that, 6 years. Well, 2 years, you know, the practice has constantly changed me. You know, because you feel the things, you still feel the things.
That's kind of like what I was saying with OCD. OCD, it never goes away.
Yeah.
All you can learn how to do is manage it as best you can.
Right.
And you can get it to a point where you're really managing that shit well, and you're really thriving because of that. It's just like that. You're programmed a certain way, you know, like you've had traumas, but not just that. Some of this shit is just genetic. You know, there's things I see myself doing, and I don't know I'm sure you have too, where it's like, dude, this is exactly what my dad would have done in this scenario. I'm responding exactly the same way. The difference is that you have an awareness of it, and you can do something about it and respond differently. But those feelings are always there. It's discomfort. And when you're uncomfortable, you want to get out of that discomfort as soon as possible. And that's where you fall back to your worst behaviors, these habits, all these types of things.
Nurture is weird, bro. And I want to talk about this. And as I talk about this, I don't want to, I don't want you to take it the wrong way.
All right.
But nurture is weird because, I'm already setting up like me insulting you, so I apologize for that.
Hey.
I apologize for that. But
right. I appreciate that.
One thing that I have kind of had this epiphany. All my life, I have been attracted to a narcissistic type of person, a very aggressive and masculine type of person. These are the people I'm attracted to. These are the people that I've always wanted in my life. These are the people I've wanted to mentor me. These type of people. And they're the wrong people for me. They're not my people. And I say nurture because that's who my dad was. My dad was this very masculine, aggressive, I'm sorry, Dad. You're not going to watch this, but I love my dad. I love him. Yeah. You know, and he's definitely a different person now, but narcissistic, and it's something that my family has, like narcissism, like that we have to continue to fight. I mean, I came here to be an actor. I have a lot of narcissistic characteristics that I have to like own up to, you know? But yeah, so like it's been a epiphany because I've have so many failed relationships and lately I've been attracting people that aren't like that, aren't aggressive, aren't full of themselves, aren't walking around trying to show everybody that they're masculine, and it's just been like kind of mind blowing to me. So I don't.
I don't take that as an insult.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And here's the thing, like,
because I have been talking to my wife and I've been talking to people about this. I'm like, man, like the people that I'm like,
man, these betas, man, I don't know where they came. All the betas came out of the woodwork.
Oh man, I just spilled.
Oh, that was my biggest fear.
I'm sorry.
Nah, I'll be able to clean that shit up.
I'm sorry. What do I do? What do I do?
Should I try to clean it up? Look, because
let's dab it.
I'll dab it. All right, we can take a break.
My bad, bro. My bad. Oh man. I knew I was gonna fuck something up in here. It was just a matter of time.
Hey, I gotta accept that. That's part of my flaw.
I'm sorry, bro.
Don't worry about it. I got it.
What are you gonna do? I mess up too, man. I mean, you can't look as good as me and be perfect and all the other things. At the same time, like, good looking people mess up too, is what I'm trying to. Extremely attractive people mess up too, is what I'm trying to. Extremely charismatic and mess up. Extremely funny, extremely talented people mess up, is what I'm trying to. Man.
Funny, man, because this is the kind of shit that I gotta challenge in myself, because this is the. That was a good break. Did you use the bathroom or anything?
No, I do. I am sitting on a fart, but I'm gonna keep that fart in me for now.
Are you sure? You could just step out.
I was thinking about going in there and farting real good, but sometimes I like to train my abs and just keep that fart in me.
All right, dude, if you want to do that.
No, I'm just gonna keep that fart in me.
Dude,
when I was setting up, I ripped a big one out here. Yeah. That felt good to just like.
I thought I caught a trace of.
It's kind of like, it's like a dog, like how a dog has to like pee on stuff. I just have to fart in places,
That's funny because like that reminds me of my dad. Like that's a memory for me, dude. Like with my dad, he was a farter.
Yeah, man, farting you gotta let that go.
Here's the interesting thing about my dad, though. My dad
sounds like a man.
He was such a farter that it became a problem at his job. Where there were complaints, HR had to get involved with this shit.
Yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, where it was like it took a special kind of coworker to just be like, "I'll sit next to this dude."
Yeah,
it was that, dude. His car, man. Like every car my dad ever had, the farts they just absorbed into the upholstery at a certain point, and you just accepted that.
I don't fart too much in my car. Maybe it's because I want my car to smell good now. Like I got a new truck and I want it to stay smelling good.
I've pulled over, farted, and gotten back in the car. I don't mess with that.
Yeah.
Like because I just growing up with my dad, I was like, there's always an underlying fart smell, like just baseline.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not there.
Yeah,
I'm not there. I won't ever be there. There's a balance. Ooh.
Oh, did we lose one? Off. Yeah. Dude, these cameras been holding up good though.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Are you using a dummy battery or whatever? Oh, regular battery? Okay. No, they've been doing good, man. They're
Yeah, these batteries are solid.
Yeah.
These batteries are solid.
Do you think it's going to be weird that we're like looking at each other like this? All right.
just said something weird.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, you gave me the close-up shot?
Yeah, because that's the better lens, so I could get close on that.
Oh, on you. I see what
lens.
you're saying. That's smart. So you actually
But,
get 3 shots here because you have the wide that you can zoom in and cut to you on.
Yeah.
That's smart, dude.
But if the footage fucked up on that and we lost that, then it goes from being really smart to being really fucking stupid.
Well, how long do you think it's been out?
No, it just said something about formatting. Let me just check.
Yeah, you can check.
I mean, it's not like, but you know, even if
We missed it? Oh, shit. But we got a lot of footage of me. Damn, that was a good conversation, too. But, you know.
No, I mean, we got the audio.
Yeah. No, then it'll just be an audio podcast. That's fine.
That really just happened.
Let's just redo the whole thing. It's funny, man. Like sometimes shit like this happens, and you gotta wonder if it's for a reason. And I know that's like a weird way to look. Like here's another thing. You know, at that mic yesterday that I went to, and it'll relate. Fuck. You're still gonna record? All right. So it didn't get nothing. It didn't get any footage.
Yeah,
It just wasn't formatted correctly.
It was. It just like I've had this issue before. It just decides to like not like it, or something with the SD card. Or it was recording the whole time, but I don't know.
Maybe it got it. Maybe. Do you think it potentially is on there? Yeah, you want me to put it in my computer and we can just look at it, see if there's any file on the thing. It might be worth just to have that. I mean, you know, peace of mind, or the opposite of that. But you know what I mean.
We're gonna get the last 30 minutes, and but I'm gonna put the whole audio out. Nah, don't worry about it, bro. Like,
okay.
Let's try to get let's do this last 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so we're gonna go to 12. We'll just go to 12 then.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Lesson learned.
You know, I mean, you might still be able to get some clips out of it, right? In the last 30 minutes, so it's worth just doing it. Let's just go.
But also,
I should turn off this.
Like you said, that one's working.
We got a lot of me.
This podcast might just be all you. So, yeah, we could just. You know, it'll just be like, it'll be you.
Yeah.
It'll cut to you. Yeah. And then when it's cutting to me, I'm just going to have my headshot.
We could do that. Fuck it.
Just have my headshot.
Or like a cartoon, like a drawing of you. All right.
Yeah, a draw like every time it cuts to me, it's just like you know, like the horse, and then it just goes to like a worse drawing of the horse.
Yeah.
So it starts with a headshot. And they go, I think I might do that.
It might be fun, dude. There might be a way, because then look, if you end up putting it up on YouTube, like just make it work as best we can. Fuck it, right? Yeah. Because I think the conversation we had is worthfucking interesting.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna put this out, even if it was just the audio. But I've had, bro, like as I've fucking got all this stuff and tried to learn, I've had so many times where I put so much energy in doing stuff, and then I can't even use it.
It's a learning experience. You know what it reminds me of? Honestly, it reminds me of like when you go to a show and you film your set, and then like something fucked up or whatever, and it's just like fuck, I didn't get any of that. Like, but the truth is that you take what you can get, and you just work the best you can.
I mean, Like honestly, I got like, bro, I've done like, let me tell you just a couple of things I've done. I've done a 2-hour podcast with somebody and didn't press record on here, which is worse. Like, you know,
because then you got nothing.
Then you got nothing. Yeah. At least we got audio.
We got audio.
Like this audio is going out there.
Yeah,
bro. But it does look beautiful. But now we know how to set it up. You know? Like, so dude, it's actually it's all good. Bro.
It's fine, dude.
It's all good. But I've also recorded in slow motion.
Okay.
Multiple times, bro. Man. Multiple times.
It's a lot, dude. It's a lot to manage that. You got to handle all that technical shit kind of on your own. Like, honestly, you brought all this in. You said all, but it all looks good, dude. You did a good job.
I'm excited for when we get to a place where we could pay producers. I can't wait to pay producers. I can't wait to pay people,
dude,
to help me run the things.
So you could focus on the important part.
And it's gonna come this year, bro. Dude, like I think what we're up to is it's gonna come this year. I mean, I'm excited about this year.
It's just doing the work and like being like put it out there. And because it's easy to just get hung up and then but once it's kind of like the whole meditation that we did together, that you know, I could have sat on that for a year. Yeah. Easily, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just just do what you can, do the best you can, and then move on to the next project and just keep going like that.
And I put it out yesterday and it was hard to put out. I was like, man, I have so much resistance to putting stuff out.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But just thank you for that, by the way. It's great. I do like it's the first of many, and I've had this idea to put out meditations for a while, and I'm so happy that, you know, we're collaborating on it.
No, and it was kind of like you said, like serendipitous, because like I've gotten to a point where comedy has become very important to me, you know, and like music has always been for a long time been very important to me, and I kind of fell away from it, and it was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get back to it in any way. And like doing the meditation, like music with you, is like a very gentle nudge back into it, you know, and it's been good for me. So it's been a good thing, and you know, so that's all, dude.
Yeah, awesome, man. Yeah. So I did want to talk about, I was triggered yesterday, so I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Do you ever get so triggered where the only thing that could solve you being triggered is sleep? That was what happened yesterday. The only thing that could help me last night was going to bed early.
Dude, I think it's funny that we talked about sleep, because I don't know if you want to talk about what your sleep schedule looks like, because I think it's a good thing. I think sleep is great. Yeah, sleep is important. Like, it's weird because I can overdo that, you know, and there's been periods in my life where I completely did, and I slept to escape life. Like that's
I've been healthy sleep is good, but I've also have been depressed where I was just like, I'm just gonna sleep my whole life away. I've been there at times, but yesterday was such an interesting thing, man, because I had people working on my garage. They're installating my garage, and I'm excited about it. I was excited about it. And these guys came over. I was a little like, they were very young.
Yeah,
the guys, and I feel like an old person now, because young people are red flags for me. Like young, like 20s, like early 20s, red flag for me. So they were like really young, but I bought them lunch, and like I tried to do everything you expect the homeowner to do, you know?
No, that's nice. You didn't have to. There's a lot of people who wouldn't do that, honestly.
Yeah, no, I want to be a nice person. I want people to say I'm a nice person.
Dude, that's nice of you to do that, man. Yeah.
And then they were like, okay, we're finished. They took all day, by the way.
Yeah.
They weren't supposed to take that long.
It's always longer, and like luckily they didn't like throw anything at you, like, you know, oh, we couldn't do this because of this, and now we're gonna have to add this kind of thing.
They did. So
okay.
They didn't have the tape. So they haven't. So anyway, so they didn't complete the project. Like they didn't have the tape, so they still have to do the tape. And when they left, my garage door wasn't working.
Yeah.
It wasn't going down. And I contacted the guy, the head contractor who wasn't there, which also was a red flag, but I just kind of ignored it. You know, I was just like, oh, it's all going to happen. It's going to be fine. You know, contacted him, told him about the garage door. He's been sick, and that's why he wasn't there, because he was sick. I was like, all right. He said he's gonna come by on Tuesday. He's gonna fix everything. He'll fix the garage. He was like, don't worry, I'm gonna make it all. It's fine. And I was like, okay, thank you, whatever. And then I'm like sitting on my couch, and I'm just going down a rabbit hole of how I just got conned. I just got I'm just going down this rabbit hole and just like working myself up and making myself more angry about how these people conned me, how I was so nice to them, and they came here and they left. They knew that because when they left, the kids seemed nervous, and it was a weird thing. Like, I was like, why are you guys nervous? Like, you know, and then the garage door didn't go down. I was like, that's why you guys fucked up my garage door, you know? Yeah. So I'm like going down this rabbit hole, and I'm like working myself up. Then I'm like trying to meditate. Like, I'm trying to breathe, going to my breath. I'm like trying to do my tools. And I could not I was like literally jumping off the cliff. And I was like, okay, well, I got to go to sleep.
Yeah. You can go to sleep like that. You can just like, all right, this is something I can do.
I think maybe because my sleep is so messed up right now, I can go to sleep.
That's good.
Yeah, because I do really like sleep, and I like sleep. I like going to sleep by 9, but I can't because my job. I'm working late. So, but they're remodeling the bar that I work at, so now this whole week I have been able to go to sleep early.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because we talked about that briefly, and you were like, "Yeah, I've been getting like 3-4 hours." Like, is that what it's been like? The last few weeks?
I don't get that great of sleep.
Yeah, sleep is important. There's actually a book that I just got, and I haven't really read it, but it's called "Why We Sleep," you know, and it's really about all the importance of sleep. Like, we know all the basic things about it, but apparently there's just like a whole laundry list, like a research about all these things that happen and why it really is important to get like good, consistent, quality sleep.
Yeah.
And that's something I struggle with too, because like I said, like I went through a phase when I was very depressed where I was sleeping my life away.
Yeah.
And it was to escape reality, because reality was so hard that sleep was an escape from it, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like, you know, as I've now, like, you know, obviously I came out of that, and now the struggle is because I have young kids and they got to be up early, and I'm doing comedy too, and like figuring out like is getting enough sleep like on a consistent basis. There's nights where, you know, I'm getting less than 6 hours of sleep, and I feel that, you know, and the days when I can get a full 7 or 8 hours, it's a huge difference.
You want to hear something very interesting about sleep? Because I have had periods in my life where I was sleeping because I was depressed, and just like you, to escape reality. But when I was in jail, I hated going to sleep.
Why? What was it specifically, do you think? Or was
had every single time I went to sleep, I had extremely lucid dreams. Extremely. Like,
let me ask you something about this, because I think I had a similar experience at a different time. And were you smoking a lot of weed before you went to jail? You weren't? All right. That's a different thing then.
No. I don't. I have my ideas of why my dreams became so lucid. But I mean, I'm not a
look, give me an example. Give me an example of like
so my dreams would always be being with my family, being out of jail, having sex, eating.
They were just very like realistic.
Extremely realistic. Like crazy realistic.
And you didn't like that?
No, because I would wake up in jail.
Oh, okay. That's a good reason.
You know? Yeah. I did not like it at all. Like, I would go to sleep and dream about freedom and being with my family and eating what I wanted, and I would wake up in jail. So it was kind of torture, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. It was interesting. And since I've been out, I've had like sections, and this is like not really even. Maybe when I was a kid, I had dreams that felt that real.
Yeah.
But not for a long time in my adult life have I.
So it only started when you were in jail. Like that's when it happened.
Yeah.
Wow. At some point, we're both gonna have to talk about jail. I don't know if this is the day to do it, but I don't know. It's interesting. Like for me, I had these crazy ass dreams when I was in the mental hospital, and maybe we'll talk about that at some point. And this is a good whatever, but it was because prior to that I had been smoking a ton of weed, like a ton of weed, and then when you go in a place like that and you don't have it anymore, they were just it was like sleep paralysis too. I don't know if you've experienced that, right? Where you feel like you're slightly awake, but you can't move your body and that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of that. And it took a long time for that to kind of stop. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things about people who smoke weed every day, addictively. That's the way I was smoking it in my 20s. You don't realize that it actually kind of is, an addictive thing. Anyway.
Now your camera's off, but I'm just gonna keep that camera.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna worry about it. They're probably the battery. Yeah, man. Dreams are interesting, man. I was diving into dreams a little bit, but dreams are interesting. You journal at all?
I do. Yeah, that's something that I started. I actually started journaling when I started comedy.
Yeah.
Just because I was curious. I never journaled in my life before that. I thought it was kind of cheesy and all this kind of stuff. And I started doing it because it was just a lot to deal with. And I didn't really have anybody to talk to about those experiences, because you're just going in on your own and you're feeling these feelings that you've never felt before. I didn't have a performance background like that. I wasn't used to getting on stage, being in front of people, doing any of that. So going up there and doing that for the first time, and then facing all those things that you do as you start to do comedy, it was just a lot to manage, so I started just journaling and writing, and I still do it. And I think where I get a little bogged down once in a while is because a part of me feels like I have to recap everything since the last time I journaled, and it's who am I doing this for? You know what I mean? It's like a homework assignment, and really it should just be about getting these. It's like talking to someone and getting that out, and that's the value of it. But,
yes. Yeah. I started journaling off and on for therapy because I forget what I'm upset about when therapy comes around.
Really? For that? You wanted to take notes? Look, this is what I want to discuss.
This is what I hate about therapy. Yeah. I'll be so pissed off about something and I want to vent about it, and then I'll fucking work it out throughout the week, and then therapy will come around. I'm I'm actually good.
I know what you're talking about. I see a therapist too. You know? And it took me a long time to find a good one and all that kind of stuff, but I found one I like. Yeah. And it's kind of like that, but in the moments when you really need it, it's invaluable. You know, that's been my experience. But there are moments when I was like, I really didn't need to pay for this session, you know?
Well, I mean, so what I like about, especially what I journaled about this week, it was a relationship that I really value, like a relationship with me and my sister have been doing really well and connecting, and it's been feeling really good. And then we'll have a little hiccup, and we had a little hiccup this week. And so journaling about that, because I know we'll probably work it out.
Yeah, of course
we'll probably work it out. But then therapy will come, and I do want to still talk about it, even if it works out.
Yeah.
So I have been journaling lately, but we are always journaling as comics.
Yeah.
I write a lot.
Me too.
I'm writing a lot, and I'm making a lot of notes.
Yeah. Do you do that throughout the day? How do you do it? Or do you sit down? Because I know those are the type. It's usually one or the other, it seems like, with people. What's your process?
I make notes throughout the day.
Yeah, me too.
I don't have a time where I usually sit down and write. Oh, this is what I was going to say. The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius has gotten me wanting to journal as well.
How far into it are you at this point?
I'm more than half into it.
Okay, I bought a copy a while back because I would just have like friends who would post little quotes, and I was like, dude, I like what this guy is saying. I like what he's about. And I started, no, that's why I bought it. But I got this reading list that's just like never ending at this point, you know? But it's kind of cool that we could talk about books like that. I think that is something that we should do and bring up because that's something that I consciously started doing more of is just reading a lot more. And really, because I've always loved reading, but there's a long period where I didn't read anything, you know, and you really got to make it a point at a certain time in your life because when you're as busy as we are too, you know, like it's a decision to decide to pick up a book versus going on your phone or doing a million other things that you could do because there really are a million other things you could do instead. But it's been a great thing for me generally, and especially in the last year or so. But yeah, tell us about Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, they call him one of the fathers of Stoicism. I wasn't even really familiar with Stoicism really until one of my friends listened to the Triggered Yogi podcast, my first or second one, and I was talking about the election and talking about how I'm emotionally I'm not involved. I'm still not involved. Yeah, really, emotionally.
I think a lot of people feel that way, honestly. You know, yeah.
And he was and my friend I had coffee with, and he was like, "Oh, you're kind of becoming a stoic. You have this stoic approach." And I was like, "What's that?" And he told me about it. And I had the Marcus Aurelius book for a while. I didn't know, I just didn't, and so it kind of got me. It kind of got me interested to read it.
Yeah. How would you describe Stoicism, by the way? Because I have a general, vague idea of what it is, but how would you sum it up?
Man, I would sum it up as acceptance, really. Accepting the reality of control instead of the idea that you're in control. Does that make sense?
A little bit. I'm trying to figure it out. The idea of acceptance, that is something that
it's I guess I'm really still trying to figure it out, I think to be Stoicism, honest, but
yeah,
it feels like to me that it feels like to me that human beings have a lot of delusion.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
When it comes to
everything, but
a lot of things, but control specifically. And what I've noticed about human beings is when we have this knowing that we don't admit about actual reality and the level of control that we have. And when there's something that we don't have control of, that we feel we should have more control of, we lash out, we get emotional, and that's how we deal with the lack of control. So Stoicism seems to me to being less delusional when it comes to the control we have and more accepting the reality of control that we actually have.
I think it's interesting because
I don't know if I fucked that all up. I could be completely wrong.
But what's also important is your interpretation of it, because I think as you can read the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and someone might get something else out of it. There's these lessons are basically there, but this is what resonates with you, and that's what the value you can take away from it, that idea. And I do think one thing that's common is this idea of suffering happens when you resist when you're not when you can't accept what is, and you're fighting so hard to force something and that's why you're suffering, whereas if you could, and this is all tied into, I think all these things kind of connect to one another. Like the things that you'll find in what Marcus Aurelius said, the things you'll find in meditation practice and things like that. A lot of it is like being present. It's as simple as that, right? Because if you were present, then you're in a position to accept what is, and you can face it and deal with it versus trying to control it, like you're saying, or whatever, resist it or fight it. And I don't know. I always thought like Stoicism, my first impression is just like someone who lives like a very simple life, right? And doesn't indulge in things and has a lot of self-control and restraint and a certain level of
self-control and restraint, yes. But you look at a guy like Marcus Aurelius, who's like considered one of the fathers of Stoicism, who had everything. Yeah,
that's what's interesting about it.
Yeah,
but so did Buddha, right? It's interesting that there are people who can come from extraordinary privilege and being in a position of extraordinary power and then see something that's fundamental to the entire human experience, right? Like for Marcus Aurelius, I think the reason partially why he stands out as much as he does is because he was a Roman emperor. Like he was in the highest level of power and he went into these that he thought so deeply about these things, about how you should live your life properly. And it resonates, I don't know how many years later. It's been, we're talking about like over like millennia at this point.
Yeah. He was considered a very wise person, a very connected person, like he had so many, and this is also why he's seen like he put Stoicism on the map, because he was looked at as such a powerful human being.
Yeah.
The introduction of the meditation.
You're telling me that it's long, right?
It's long and it's very interesting. And I honestly had a more enjoyable time reading that than the book.
No kidding.
Yeah. But there are like nuggets throughout the book, but there's also a lot of just jargon, it's like.
But it's interesting that, that's really what somebody in a high level of power should be doing, right? Is trying to serve, right? That's kind of what it comes down to,
But also something I pointed out was the fact that he failed as a father.
Yeah, you did say that. Yeah, that's interesting, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to his son following in his footsteps.
What happened to his son? I don't even know the story.
He just was not nowhere close to the type of leader. He went to war. I think he got murdered.
Oh man.
Did Marcus Aurelius? No, he didn't get murdered. But yeah, like I think he got.
That's a hard thing, dude. Like that's an interesting thing. It is rare when somebody does some great accomplishment, someone that we look up to, like throughout history and stuff like that. The kids, they never live up to that. It just don't happen.
Look at LeBron James.
And even then. He's still an NBA player. Like he's a good athlete for sure. But like,
Bronny,
what are you supposed to do?
Bronny.
Of course, right? But it's like, but come on, like the bar is set so damn high,
bro,
that it's almost like it almost feels like if you have a kid and you're like a celebrity or whatever, you're good in whatever field it is that you're in, and you're at the top of that game.
Yeah.
Tell your kids to do something different. This shit has been covered, all right? Like, if Bronny should have been in med school, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing about Bryce James is going to be an amazing player. I know that for a fact. This guy's a beast in high school.
Yeah.
Bronny has not gotten the height advantage that Bronny or Bryce James has gotten. So Bronny is a little shorter.
Yeah.
He could dunk. He's athletic. I think if he would have stayed in college maybe one more year, he would have came into the NBA with a little bit more. Like people have been like, yeah, I see it. But I think Bronny, I've always said this, I think Bronny is going to develop into a decent player.
Yeah.
and I'm all for it, you know. Like there's a lot of like Gary Payton Jr.
Gary Payton, like Seattle Supersonics.
His son is in the NBA and he's a baller.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Damn.
But then you look at Michael Jordan's son who doesn't do anything.
I mean, but he did it right. That's the point. He wasn't trying to. Everybody's got to define their own legacy, and I think there's something to that. Probably, I'm sure those kids, like, they feel like, imagine the level of pressure, especially if, like, I want to be. You know where you never see that shit? It never works. Is in boxing, dude. Yeah. Like, can you think of one junior?
Bro, I used to train Shane Mosley. I used to be his
I got a connection.
Personal trainer.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Listen up, dude. Like, we'll get into this, but, like, I boxed when I was growing up. And I trained at this gym in Baldwin Park, and Shane Mosley's from Pomona. And before he blew up, he was struggling. He was a good fighter, undefeated. He was coming up. This was and he was calling out De La Hoya because he knew that name would put him on the map, and that's what happened. It got him to the superstar status. But before that, he was struggling. He was living in his dad's garage in Pomona, and he would train at our gym, dude. And he was a cool, nice guy. Like he was down. Like he would show up, sign autographs, but like it wasn't a big deal because he wasn't a superstar yet. And it's just interesting, dude. Like Shane Mosley, yeah, his son became a fighter too.
Yeah. His son's a cool guy. Yeah.
I bet he is.
I trained his girlfriend.
Are you serious?
His girlfriend's kids. Yeah, so I was introduced to Shane Mosley by his girlfriend. She hired me to do a short film, and then she hired me to be her trainer,
like personal trainer,
while she was with Shane Mosley, and yeah, it was the best of times. It was a fun time. I trained them for about a year. His girlfriend was a very interesting person.
Hold on, I think I might know who you're talking about. Was she Latina?
She's like black and something else.
Okay,
I'm not sure. Mixed.
Like it could be like it's not his wife. It was like he was.
No, it was not his wife.
Post-wife, right?
It was post-wife.
I think I might know your time.
This person, very interesting person, beautiful.
Yeah.
Extremely intelligent.
Yeah.
But also batshit crazy.
Why does that always seem to be
It's interesting. Yeah. So I actually have a funny story about this relationship. And we had a falling out. Like, I haven't talked to Shane in a couple years, and me and this person had a falling out. Like I said, like, I'm attracted to these like very narcissistic, like she's an alpha. Like, this woman was alpha all the way. And we had a falling out. She was producing a commercial, and this was where the falling out started. She was producing a commercial, and she had this open call with all these girls, and she was just treating the girls just terrible. And I was just like, man, this is crazy. And then this is when, after I stopped drinking, and they were drinking. It was so funny because she asked me to stay while they had a party. They had this beautiful house in Playa Vista. It had all these windows, glass. It was like a glass house. It was the prettiest house on the block. And they had a party after the first day of shooting this commercial. And I was not feeling good after that day because of how she was treating, all these actors. And as an actor, I was like, oh, this is, I don't like this. And then they got drunk. The next day I showed up to set. They were 2 hours late because they're all hungover. And then she just started being mean to me that day. And then she started posting about me.
What?
Yeah. She started posting about me.
What kind of shit was she even saying?
Just weird shit. Just like really subliminal, like weird shit. Like can't wait to get this person out of my life after this week. Like, she was posting about me.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of, it was just like a miserable last couple of days. And then we stopped talking for a while. And then we tried to hash it. Like, there was like a couple months went by, and we got together again, and then it came up. Like, she invited me over to her house, and then she came up, and then we got into this, well, I guess I could call it a big fight. It wasn't. She was just yelling at me, like, which showed me like she saw no wrong in her actions, which also shows me how delusional a narcissist is. Like how a narcissist does not see any fault, know? Yeah. And she was yelling at me, and then I left, and I haven't talked to her since. And this was a long time ago. But I also haven't talked to Shane. And he was definitely a guy that I kind of really wanted to keep a relationship with. He was a cool guy, quiet guy. But yeah, here's a funny story. So this is a very attractive woman. This girl.
I think I know who you're talking about.
She's very attractive.
Is her name like Bella or something like that?
No,
okay. Anyway,
I'm not gonna say her name.
Yeah, you don't have to.
But yeah, very attractive woman, and our relationship was kind of odd because when I trained, I was training her mostly, so I was spending most of my time with her.
Yeah.
Right. So. And this is the girlfriend of this champion boxer, right?
Yeah,
and
he was great,
and he was telling me how to box too, and like so we would softly spar with each other. I was like, this guy could whoop my ass,
dude.
And he is not
strong,
a big person.
No, but
he's small and like he was very strong.
Yeah.
So a funny thing is, I had back surgery, and when this person, his girlfriend, when she. This is one of her qualities. When she likes you, oh man, she will show you that you are the most special person in the world. But when she hates you, she'll try to ruin you.
Damn, that's scary, dude.
Yeah.
You don't even want that's just playing with fire. It's not.
Yeah, that's who this person is. So like when I had my back surgery, oh man, they were coming by the hospital, and when I was in jail. Yeah. When I was in jail, they came and visited me, and I was like the talk of the jail.
Shane Mosley
came and visited me in jail.
Damn.
So like I said,
nobody came to visit.
Yeah, when they knew how to, like, she knows how to make you feel special when she likes you, but when she hates you, it's a wrap, right? So like she made me feel so good when we were cool, and I had my back surgery, but during the time I had my back surgery, her and Shane started having like little fights, right? Weird fights, and she kind of bring me into it, and I was like, I don't want to be in this, like,
Yeah. So
during my back surgery, they were going through like some fights and stuff like that, and when I came home from the hospital, I was on Percocet.
Yeah.
And she was hitting me up like, hey, like, let me take you out. You got to get outside. You can't just lay there. And I was like, nah, I'm good. And she was like, no, I'm coming to get you. Let's go to a movie. I was like, all right, I guess it'll be nice for me to get outside. And so I had a cane, and I'm walking outside. She's like, I'm going to come outside. I'm outside. I had a cane. I'm walking outside with a cane. And my wife is with me. So I was like, come say hi to so-and-so. I almost said her name. Mm-hmm. I was like, come say hi, So I'm walking outside, and I see her coming. I give her a hug. I look over her shoulder, and it's Shane. I was like, oh, I didn't know Shane was coming.
Yeah.
She turns over. What the fuck are you doing here? You followed me here. Blah, 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 blah. And they start fighting. And I'm just like, oh my God.
So she didn't know he was there?
No, he followed her to my house. Like I don't know, like if he thought she was cheating or something. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm on drugs. Like my back is hurting. It was like, this guy gonna murder me right now, And she's like, get the fuck out of here. And I could go to a movie with my friends. And backstory, he had somebody in his ear telling him that the relationship between me and her was not right as well. Yeah. He had some other guy that I introduced him to, this other black guy that owned this, this dojo or whatever I introduced him to, but it turned out that guy was a fucking weirdo as well. So anyways, he was in his ear because he wanted to build a relationship with Shane. So his red flags were firing off about me, and she was going crazy. I'm like drugged and on, my back is out, and all this is happening outside of my apartment. Then she was like, and this is a boss ass bitch, right? Like she's boss level. And she was like, Leah, get in the car. I'm like, oh shit. All right. So I get in the car, and she starts driving, and I remember just, and Shane is following us, and I was like, and she was like, I can't believe, she's like going off, I can't believe he followed me here. And I was like, please take me home. Just like that. I was like, just take me. It's just like, no, we're going to the movie. I was like, no, nope. Yeah. You're taking me home. This is not like, this is going to get crazy. It's already crazy. But anyway, it was an interesting little event. I've tried to like talk about that on stage to make it funny. But it's just one of those true weird stories that you only deal with when you're in Los Angeles.
That's crazy that shit like that does happen in LA. You really do end up like meeting fucking people like that. They're all out here, it's weird. Yeah. Man, so like did they break up? Or they broke up?
They broke up like I mean, I don't really follow her story anymore. She definitely went full. Yeah. She's really out there. I think she lives in Bali now.
Oh really?
Like last time I checked, my wife still follows her. Like last time I checked, she lives in Bali.
Like that
she shaved her head. She got tattoos all over her head.
Oh my goodness.
She's like very like cult yoga type of person now.
It's interesting that people could just there's people with that level of privilege that they could just be like, yeah, I'm gonna move to Bali now and restart. I think it's time. Whatever, good for them. But damn, dude, that is a crazy story. So you haven't talked to Shane since?
No.
He seems like a cool dude. Like because I met him when I was like 13 or something like that. Yeah, super nice guy, very like kind of like humble, like. Yeah, you're like not talking a lot, but always smiling. Like always like one of those guys that. Yeah,
he seems like a cool guy. Like I wish I could have found a way to keep that relationship. Even his son seems really cool.
Yeah, like, that's how we got into it, because like his son tried to box for a minute, and he wasn't a bad boxer or anything like that. But like it's just a different circumstance, man. That's an interesting thing about boxers. Like they all come from the roughest. There are no, upper class boxers who box at a high level. Like you pretty much have to come from difficult circumstances, and that becomes your way out, and that's why you do it. But that's why like I've never really, and there are exceptions. There are a few exceptions. Like who's that dude? Tim Zhu? Do you know what I'm talking about? So that's Kostya Zhu's son.
Okay.
So he was a world champion, actually. I mean, he lost. He took a big loss recently, and that put a big derail. I mean, he's gonna have to come back from that. But up until then, he was looking like, because he was one of those examples that of a world champion, top level boxer whose son followed in the same footsteps, and then looked like he was gonna be at that level too. But it's just hard, man. To have that level of greatness in the same field for 2 generations, that is not an easy thing to accomplish.
I'll tell you where there's one case
where
the son exceeded the father.
Well, that happens a lot, but the father is usually like a like it's usually the opposite. It's the most common thing is like Kobe, for example, right? Yeah. Like his dad played like in Italy and stuff like that. He was a solid basketball player, like professional. But where the son follows in that footsteps and exceeds, that shit happens all the time.
Right.
The opposite is not. But what were you thinking of?
Oh, Ken Griffey.
Oh, yeah, but that's a good one, too, because Ken Griffey Sr. was also what happened. The other one I was thinking about, maybe it happens more in baseball, but Prince Fielder, right? His dad was Cecil Fielder, also very, and I think Prince became like fucking maybe out. They were both really good.
Yeah.
So weirdly, you do it happens.
Yeah.
But man, to do that for 2 generations, that's why, like, if you're at the top of your field, tell your kid to do something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just say, look, our family, we covered that. You know.
Luckily, I haven't been at the top of my field.
And that's why your son he plays ball, right? Is that his main thing?
Basketball. Yeah.
So there you go. He has a chance.
He has so many chances.
You set it up for him well.
He has so many chances because he's so much better than I am.
No, that's how it's supposed to be. That's the point, you know. And I think, like, when you're like an elite level athlete like that, maybe there's a certain, there has to be a certain level, like Jordan, right? Like, that's not a normal level of like mindset.
Yeah,
you know?
Jordan's son probably was like, nah, I'm not even gonna try.
Yeah, he saw that and he was like, nah, fuck that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. That's
but in a lot of ways, LeBron's sons are who they are because LeBron was like, you are doing this. I don't think Jordan even.
No.
But I don't
He didn't
know.
want the competition.
Jordan seems like the type of person who's like, nobody's going to be.
Yeah, so don't bother.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
There will never be another me. Ever.
Exactly.
Like, even if you're my seed. Sorry, son. You know, but LeBron is like, my sons are playing basketball, you know.
No. And you know what, like, when you actually just look at it objectively, I mean, to have a son like Bronny, like, most people, if that was their kid in the NBA doing exactly what he's doing, they'd be like, fuck, he's killing it, dude. Like, he's doing great. It's just that he's got that James last name, and that makes everything 100 times harder. So imagine how hard it is for him always having to live up to that. Like, he's dealing with that, and like you said, he has some height disadvantages that maybe his brother has more advantages and all that stuff. He's doing great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the actual truth.
Yeah, I know why now the cameras didn't work out, because I am going to put out the whole audio of this, and I am so happy I got to speak about that Shane Mosley thing, and I know she's not going to watch this or she's not going to listen to that because it's not her style, and I won't get murdered, so she'll never listen to it.
Well, good.
So that's why the camera didn't work.
Yeah, and her bald ass is in Bali anyway. She's not paying attention. You'll be fine.
But you know, she'll fly somebody to if she needs. She'll fly if she needs to.
I'm afraid of this woman. I'm afraid.
No, definitely be afraid.
Yeah. We got to cut all that.
Yeah, definitely one of those type of individuals you don't want to fuck with. Like she's one of those. Like,
dude, no, like, it's funny that, like, sometimes, like, you see, even with all the, you know, the potential positive things like you experience, like all this care, like you said, when she really likes you, I mean, oh my God, she won't do
when she likes you, like. She's so good to people she likes.
But if you know there's a layer of the other side, don't even bother with those people. It's just not worth it.
But it's such a tricky thing to even. It's such a tricky thing to even find out someone is like that. It's so, you know, because, man, I mean, I don't even know. Like, I mean, like, especially when I was experiencing these people, like in my 20s, late 20s, you know, like, she gave me money, she gave me a job, she introduced me to famous people. She took, you know, like, she put me in films because she was producing films. She put me in films, she put me in commercials. Like, she did, like I said, like, when this person likes you, she's exposing you to the world. But if something goes left, watch out.
Man, that is an interesting thing. You know, I think most people in LA would have taken that deal, though. You know,
it was hard to not.
Yeah, how do you not?
It was hard to not,
especially if you're struggling and all that. You know, and you don't. And then if you don't know, and even if you suspect, you still take. Dude, look at Weinstein. A lot of people took that deal. You know what I mean? And that was a much worse deal overall. You know, and Hollywood is full of that. That's what's interesting about it. It really is. You were dealing with someone at a much lower level and much less, like, they were asking for less too.
Right.
You just had to deal with, like, a crazy personality and all that. But that's, like, it's funny that's almost just a little glimpse of what other people have done at a much higher level and all that kind of shit.
Oh, man. It's a dogfight out there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We should probably wrap it up, huh?
Yeah, man. Trigger Yogi Podcast the audio's gonna go out I'm gonna still look at and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, we got you.
We got a lot of me.
We got you the whole time.
We got a lot of me.
So there's that.
Maybe we just do that.
But the setup is great, bro. I think we should continue to do it like this.
We figured something out,
Yeah. And like those things will happen. But as long as the audio is, I mean, it's a podcast.
It's a podcast. Yeah. That's really what it's about, dude. And we're just gonna figure out stuff as we go.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
All right.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Till next time.
All right.